Subjective versus objective perspective is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and it's something I'm always thinking about when planning my coverage for any project. These are two different approaches that will radically change how any given moment is experienced by the audience. It's the difference between seeing the events as an objective spectator or being inside, feeling the subjective force of the moment. So I want to take a look at the differences, how I've been thinking about them, and at the end I'm going to give my recipe for getting the right coverage for any scene every time. To make it simple, an objective shot shows you what's happening, clear and neutral. A subjective shot tells you how to feel about it, similar to music. Music can tell the audience how to feel about what they're watching, so much so that it can be overdone, with the music's hand getting too heavy, which some call Mickey Mouse, which comes from the early days of Disney when every action Mickey made was supported by music. The difference between objective and subjective can be as simple as frame size and depth of field. For instance, if I have these two characters talking, Josh is in the power position, Justin feeling inferior, an objective way to handle this would be in a two-shot, a bit wider, with deep depth of field. And if I cut in, I'm keeping both characters in the same sort of framing. But if I wanted to get subjective, I can place the camera a bit lower on Josh, and when I come to Justin, I can be tighter and a bit higher. When the scene gets to the height of Justin feeling inferior, I can move in with shallow depth of field and even higher angle. The low angle makes Josh larger in frame, and the high angle makes us look down at Justin. Again, that's a very simple and kind of obvious example, but it can get far more complex, pulling every element in to deepen that emotional immersion. Oppenheimer is an incredible example of that and of subjective filmmaking in general. Now let's pause for a second. This isn't a video essay. I don't do those, and the reason I don't is, and this is on topic, art is massively subjective. Why a filmmaker chose something and even how a viewer responds to that is a very subjective act and not entirely possible to capture in any objective body. So what we're talking about here is how I see things as a director myself. And since we are disclaimering, a shot isn't entirely subjective or objective either, but more of a range between those two things, since it's maybe not possible to have an entirely objective shot. So we're really talking about how much you turn the volume up on subjectivity or not. But back to Nolan. This film is so subjective that Nolan wrote the entire script in first person, using I throughout, as if Oppenheimer was the one telling you the story. And this scene in the second half of the film is both my favorite and a perfect example. Nolan really makes us feel this moment. And like I said before, it's not only the framing, it's what's inside it, like the flickering background, the intensely shallow focus, the overexposed moments. It's also heavily in the sound, which I think sound can force subjectivity even more, but that's an episode for another day. But every element is pushing this into a highly subjective world. Imagine this moment shot more objectively. Still a great scene, but you'd be one of the people in the stands watching it unfold and making your own judgments. Instead, Nolan turned his celebratory speech into an anxiety-ridden moment of horror by putting us inside the character's mind. We could pull this back to simplicity with, say, a character suddenly getting a jolt of pain in their head. We could shoot it like this, detached, or we could snap in, use shallow focus and a tight frame to bring the viewer into his experience. And of course, it's not just close-ups that will do this. Like POV shots, it's one of the many tools that can help you in achieving that result. And actually, speaking of tools, the shots we just showed and the ones coming up have all been shot with these lenses. These are the Cymaris C Cine Primes from Thighpoc, today's sponsor. And these are really nice lenses with a great image. I have the 16, 21, 28, 35, 50, and 75, and they're all crazy fast at t1.5, except for the 16, which is 1.9. But that 1.5 is really helpful when we're trying to get that extreme shallow depth of field with some of these shots. And of course, that is a massive benefit for low light too. They're really small lenses, making them nice and light at between 380 and 470 grams per lens, which is roughly half the weight of most cinema lenses. So the entire set fits in a backpack, and you can throw these on a gimbal without getting it too front heavy. You have well-controlled focus breathing and minimal distortion, but that doesn't mean I'm getting an ugly, overly clean image. It's sharp in the middle with some fall off at the edges, which I love, and a little swirl to the bokeh, so you're getting a really nice cinematic image with a good amount of character, which for me is top of my list. I'm surprised by the cost too, given the quality. This might be the best budget cinema lens out there. I feel like they are punching way above love their weight class. And I love what I'm getting across the focal lengths. The wide is tasty, the 75, which is a focal length that I love but don't get to use much, and I love what it's doing to the background. And it looks really great on faces. So if you're an indie filmmaker who wants cinema glass without spending cinema money, check the link in the description. You'll get 5% off through that link as well. Another loud example, though more naturalistic, is the D-Day sequence from Saving Private Ryan. We're thrown in the water, bullets whizzing by, the camera is chaotic, every frame is telling you exactly how to feel and trying to put you in the character's shoes, which it does exceedingly well. We can contrast that, like we did before, with another known film, though again, it's impossible to be fully objective, but we can compare a highly subjective moment like this one to a more pulled back objective construction like this moment from Manchester by the Sea. We're an observer here, outside of his actions, and it's incredibly impactful. So neither is better than the other. It's about knowing when to use the right tool for the job. Another massively important factor is to know whose subjective perspective we're in. And this is true of your entire story. One of the most important factors of any scene, writing and directing and editing, is knowing whose point of view we're telling it from. This could be an untethered observer, it could be one of the characters, it could jump throughout the scene, but you have to know. Another simple example could be two characters talking again, but one is struggling to hold back violence. If I were to shoot this from Josh's perspective, I'd give him a close-up in this scene and not Justin. In that close, we see Josh's eyes shift, and then we cut to his POV as Justin grips the couch trying to hold back his anger. If we shift our perspective to Justin, I'll give him the close-up this time, and when I shoot him gripping the arm of the couch, I'll shift my angle to the side, make it tighter and more shallow, like Justin is feeling it, not seeing it. Then one more shot here, we have sweat rolling down his face, and again, he's feeling that, not seeing it. So the way that I'm approaching this, at least in my mind, when it's on Josh's perspective, I'm showing what he's seeing. With Justin, I'm showing what he's feeling. And those are two very different scenes. Shifting a little bit here, but still entirely related, often when you're on set, the shot list has to be rethought, especially when you are low budget and running gun. So a little coverage recipe that I stick to in those moments to make sure that I have what I need is triangle coverage plus specials. Triangle coverage is exactly what it sounds like. To keep it simple, for a conversation scene between two people, it would be a shot of each and a master. And the specials would be these extra shots like we've been showing throughout the episode. It's that extra seasoning that you don't necessarily need to finish an edit, like the close on the hand or the sweat, but they are going to elevate it and carry the intention that helps you tell the story the way that you want. So on set, when time is running out and I have to toss the plan and move fast, this frame of thinking has always gotten me to an end result that I was happy with. Whether that's action or dialogue, I know if I have it from those 3 points, I have it. Which those points are setups, which means I could get a wide, medium, close from each point, or two people are sitting next to each other and then I could get singles on each of them, and it's still from that point. Now, this isn't a best case scenario situation. This is not how I shot list. When I have my way, it's very specific coverage just to that scene. But when time is not on my side, this is a great safety net to have in my back pocket, and is one that has saved me many times, more than once. You can see it in my short films Proximity, UFO Yeah, Ballistic, and a bunch of others, probably every one of them if I'm being honest. In each instance, we were running out of time, so I threw out the shot list and shifted to my triangle coverage, and we made our day. But again, with that triangle coverage, those specials that give subjectivity to the scene are the thing that really make it come alive for me and become the connective tissue to the audience. Whether that's as obvious as Oppenheimer or the Dutch angle in Mission Impossible telling us things are wrong, or as subtle as crushing your depth of field. And of course, sound is a massive factor here. Oppenheimer and Saving Private Ryan both use sound in incredibly subjective and immersive ways that take the moment the rest of the way there. So it isn't just the shot, it's everything coming together to serve that one vision, which is why I want to tell you about Saramonic. That's a segue. You see that?
No, that was a transitional thought. A segue is something you stand on, and it has wheels.
Oh my God.
And you go pretty fast.
There's a lot of lavs out there, but Saramonic K9 is really killer. It's a digital UHF wireless system that gives you a massive amount of clean dynamic range, less aggressive gating, and a clean signal without RF spray. And because it's UHF, you get reliable signal in places where 2.4 gigahertz systems start crying like crowded events or busy city streets. And it's one of the only digital UHF systems that can do 32-bit float internal recording and 32-bit float transmission. So even if your talent goes from whispering to full scream, you aren't distorting. And you have two super tiny 3mm lavs. They're Kevlar reinforced, waterproof, dustproof, and virtually no cable noise. And most importantly, they're so small that they are very easy to hide. Then you have the Saramonic system app. You can scan for clean frequencies and push settings to multiple units and manage all from your phone. And the K9 can sync to external timecode as a slave, which we can use the Saramonic TC Neo for that. A tiny wireless timecode generator, the TC Neo lets you jam sync all your devices, so A-cam, B-cam, your audio, recorder, and so on. You can also quickly jam multiple units and then sync everything very quickly in post. This has a ton of applications for to system, to multicam, to the effects work. So if you're needing wireless audio and timecode, hit the link in the description for 10% off Saramonic, K9, and TC Neo. But that's it for today, and I would love to hear what you think below about everything that we've talked about. And definitely check out those Thighpock lenses if you're looking for some new cinema glass. I've had them for a couple of months now, and they're genuinely some of the best budget cinema lenses I've ever used. So check that link in the notes below. And as always, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.